who you're around or who you've been around is going to leave an imprint on how you behave or how you show up in the world. If you're in a version of reality or in an environment that you're not happy with, there are places and spaces that already have the intention of what it is that you want. All you need to do is find that place. The only way through a pattern is by interrupting it, and to interrupt it, you need to go and put yourself somewhere that you haven't been yet. And it may be scary. I do agree, it is scary. I had to break up with my old self. I had to let go of this traumatized version of me. At some stage, you have to let parts of you go in the old environments so that you can flourish in the ones that you're choosing, because that's the only way that you can live out your uncapped potentiality. Welcome to episode 2 of the Uncapped Potential. This is your host, Alana G. Topic today is actually going to be about environment, and it's something that you've probably heard multiple times, and if you haven't, well, listen up, because it is one of the most powerful learnings. When you realize that your environment shapes you, and you hear this saying, many people say it, the top 5 friends that you hang around is who you become. It is true. I tell you this right now, when I was in a toxic environment, I was toxic. When I decided to be intentional with my environments, everything changed, everything shifted. So what I learned very early on is if I wanted to learn a new topic, if I wanted to learn something new, like when I went overseas to a country, when I go to France, I'm not going to become a French speaker on the moment I arrive, but the more that I'm there, I'm going to start to pick up the language, and I'm going to start to become part of the culture, and I will start to fluently speak French. What I love about being intentional with environments is that you can actually pick and choose what you want, right? So you can actually look at a space and a place and what they're achieving or what they're embodying, what they're bringing to the plate, and go, is that what I want? And if that's what you want, you go and spend some time in that environment and you can actually achieve it. So what I witness about myself and going into new environments is that I would take on the culture of that environment. And when I wanted to discover, to break through my broke mindset, my broke mama, single mum kind of bullshit story that I was selling myself, because that's all I was hanging around, I decided to invest my time in communities that really spoke to wealth creation. And I had to seek out these communities because they didn't just exist in society's normal. You had to actually go and find where they were and become part of the experience with them. And when I sought an environment of love and fun and freedom, then I just looked to the people that were having love, fun, and freedom, and went and got myself into that circle. It didn't always come without me feeling levels of fear or inadequacy, I guess, not knowing that language or not knowing that environment, but the courage that it took to go into those environments and stick in that space then allowed me to actually take on that persona. So the way that I speak now is not the way that I spoke 5 years ago. The way that I create my money right now is not how I created my money 5 years ago, because I've plugged into a system, I plugged into a space and started to take on all the learnings that are of that space. One of the greatest things about the community that I'm involved in now is that we do speak about abundance and wealth, and we also really are encouraging of supporting each other. So we're bringing all the elements of being a really good human to one space, and we're bringing all the elements of what it takes to create wealth outside the system to one space. So then the energy is amplified. Everyone comes together and brings this wholesomeness, this expansive, energetic force field to the intention of the space, which is this wealth creation space. Growing up in an environment where, I was moving homes a lot, and my mum, very ambitious woman, so grateful that she was, because I do have that part of her within me too now. However, there were parts of the experience that she, moving every week, struggling paycheck to paycheck, or making money and spending a lot of money, that became almost my story. Until you've got to look at who you're around or who you've been around is going to leave an imprint on how you behave or how you show up in the world. And so when you can start to bring that mirror to yourself of like, okay, I was in that environment, so of course I'm going to have parts of that still that comes through me. Am I going to choose that, or am I going to move forward and past that? And I had to like really break up with my old self in many ways. I had to let go of this traumatized version of me. And I was holding on to that for a really, really long time. You know, it showed up in the way that I spoke. I actually read an email that I wrote to one of my mentors 4 years ago about wanting to speak on stage, and just even in the language of that email was so much like hardship, and the language I used was, you know, attached to my old self, my traumatized self, the one that was broken. And I wasn't really allowing myself to let that part of me go. I wasn't allowing it to let go because I didn't want to, you know, be better than everyone else. I wanted to go, hey, I'm still Alana from the Gold Coast that had all this shit happen. And I'm not special, you know, but yeah, at some stage you have to like let parts of you go and the old environments of you go so that you can flourish in the ones that you're choosing to move forward into. And the one that I really want to create as well, the environment that I'm creating within my community now, you know, I allow for adult tantrums. Like we can have an adult tantrum and scream and cry and kick and scream, you know, do all the things that you need to do when you don't want to grow, because it's going to happen. You're going to feel stuff. But we also then move through that and become the embodied version of us that we want to become, because that's the only way that you can live out your uncapped potentiality. It's the only way that you can get to the next realities that you're creating. Let me give you an example of being in the wrong crowd, as they would say, or in the wrong environment. Being in high school, I picked up a few rough friends, and it wasn't very long into being at this new school that I was wagging and doing all these naughty things that I got myself expelled in year 10. And that's just one example of many, even now as I'm an adult and a conscious being walking around. Like I notice if I'm in an environment, especially if it's fueled by alcohol, that's one of the things that I'm always quite aware with, is that things can go wrong. Shit hits the fan. And, you know, I was jumped recently, not very long ago, in a park. Just, I'm there thinking, you know, I'm going to be love and light and everyone's having a good time. And just the person I was around, the people I was around, you know, they weren't a frequency match to where I wanted to go. And it just created this chaotic event that transpired to where I was getting bashed by a chick. And it wasn't probably the people as such. It's more so the energetics of that space. It wasn't in my highest intention to be there. So of course things are going to go wrong. And getting scratched by this woman who's on drugs, and you have to look at yourself the next day and think, well, what could I have chosen better in this experience? And it's always, for me, comes back to what I'm ingesting in my body at the time. If it's alcohol, there's definitely a good chance that things can go wrong. And who I'm around, like who are the people I'm around? Like what are they speaking into existence? What words come out of their mouth? What do they see the reality like? What are their beliefs? Because those beliefs are going to be imprinted onto mine. And what is their energetics? Are they is their frequency high? Is it vibrant? Or is it dense and also creating chaos for themselves? Like you can usually see someone that isn't investing in the right environment because they start to live out these same patterns over and over and over again, you know? And the only way through a pattern is by interrupting it. And to interrupt it, you need to go and put yourself somewhere that you haven't been yet. You have to go and put yourself around new knowledge, new ways of speaking, new ways of being, new information, new resources. And so grateful that was a decision that I made for myself. Every part of my journey has actually been that decision. You know, it started with traveling overseas as being my first road to sovereignty, coming out of being trapped in a traumatic relationship. You know, getting on a plane, putting myself in a new environment allowed more freedom, allowed more full expression. But as I became a businesswoman, you know, I needed to make sure I was really intentional with where I put my energetics in my growth for business and wealth creation, and what was I willing to let go of to be able to go to those places. Like, what friends did I have to say, hey, pause, this isn't working for me? What friends could I now seek out that actually would live in the life that I wanted? And that's what I did, and it works. You know, you get to go and be around those people and learn from them, but then also become one of them, because you become who you're around. And that's the saying that gets said so many times, and we forget, and we're not really intentional, that every moment you've got to consider, like, this, each moment is going to lead to another. So is the moment that you're about to take with the people that you're about to take it with the one that you need to be with to go to where you want to go? Learning from my wealth consciousness community, my, you know, even the people that come into my space, what I see is that they're willing to come into the environment. That's something that people do. There's that they take that first action, but they don't stick around. They don't stay in the fire, as they would call it. They don't. And this doesn't happen as often in my business now, but this is something that I've seen before. But, you know, you want something and then you go to that place and then something talks you out of it because you don't want to upgrade. Like, your human behavior, your human nature is not to want to upgrade because it's become scary and it's fearful, and you're full of whatever it is that's there. But it's like, you've just got to hold your space and take deep breaths, keep going, give it a crack, see what happens. And then eventually that becomes normal and that place becomes comfortable for you. So even me doing a podcast and coming on here and sharing with you, like, it's not super comfortable right now for me. And yeah, I know that the more that I keep showing up and sharing with you guys, and I have all these cameras on me and I've got a podcast mic, I've got all these things that I'm not used to having around me. But as I do this more often, that will become normal. And then you might see me on a massive stage, because then that's where my edge is. Who knows? But that's how we grow, and this is how we lean into parts of us that we, you know, haven't explored yet. So the importance is to actually just take action, is firstly to say yes, but then every moment after that moment, continue to say yes. Don't go to France and think you're going to speak French if you don't stick around. If you want to grow and you want to go to this unlimited potentiality of yourself, then stay in the space. Listen to more podcasts that I make. Get on some of the training courses. Commit to yourself that you're choosing a new pathway. And I have multiple communities that I work with and play and explore with. And I have a bunch of beautiful off-grid, nature-loving hippies that all run events, and I love that community. I love you guys. And what I'm witnessing is that they're starting to see my journey and think, wow, we need to up level in our own experience of wealth consciousness. And even though that they're abundant in many ways of like creating food, etc., money is still the currency of this time. And so, if you're exchanging time for money, I know I'm going off topic here, but I feel like it's really in topic, because what I'm witnessing is, by me also being a part of a community, being a part of environment, that by me taking action and me leaning into my own experience, that I actually am changing the collective at the same time. So then their consciousness, they start to see what they want to see. They start to wonder what it is that I see, and they want to come. And I actually, when I was driving to this event on the weekend, I thought to myself, like, how do I shift this community? And I got the same download, or like the same answers, was you just keep doing what you're doing, and and then the consciousness will rise. And then at that event, I had 4 people actually come to me and go, all right, let's do this. We're ready to start thinking beyond now and start thinking to the longevity and the legacy and the wealth consciousness piece, and really bring attention to the parts of us that are limiting us to the same experience over and over again. And so that whole environment that I'm a part of is now going to go together. Like, I could see this whole other movement transpiring right now, and they get to go the journey together, but they all need to plug into another community that is embodying that wealth consciousness, and take themselves possibly away from their own community at times, to really embrace this new way of living, so that they can actually empower their whole community as a whole as well. I just want to say that I want to celebrate you, because if you're listening to this, you have taken action to expand your mind or your consciousness. Someone's maybe shared it with you. But if you're in a version of reality or in an environment that you're not happy with, you're not feeling safe, you're not feeling connected, you're not feeling love, there's no joy, or you're not feeling the freedom that you deserve and desire, then you can actually find and take action towards finding those places. And it may be scary. I do agree. It is scary. And yet we are in the steering wheel of our physical form and our life. So we need to utilize resources that we've got around us. And, feel free to always reach out to me. I'm always an open book to answer anyone's questions. And maybe one day I'll regret that, because there'll be lots of people reaching out to me. But for now, I absolutely love conversation, and I'm totally there and available for people when I can be, and I will be. But there are places and spaces and environments that are already existing, that already have the intention of what it is that you want. And all you need to do is find that place, what it is within you that you want right now. What do you need right now? Is it more joy? Is it more peace? Is it more love? Is it money? If it's any of those things, just find the environments that are spending their time on working, like with that intention, on working out all the solutions that you need for that to happen. And so by plugging yourself into that, it would just become innate. Anything that you want to learn is available to you these days. We have so many places and spaces to coexist with learnings. It's just, getting out of your own way for sure, and taking a leap of faith and trusting that when someone says they're doing something, that they are doing that thing, and you'll get to figure that out along the way. But stay plugged in as well. If you love this podcast, or you're getting a little bit inspired by me, please let me know. Put it in the comments, like, share, maybe gift this learning to someone else that you know that needed to hear it, and needs to hear it. We're not alone on this journey. We're all together. And I would totally appreciate you guys letting me know that you want this podcast to continue, and I'll keep bringing the goodness. Come and check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Follow all the social media links down below. And if you want to know who I am and what I'm all about and what community we're talking about when it comes to wealth consciousness, just come and follow me on my socials, reach out, touch base, and I'll lead you down a pathway of goodness. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys to see what your takeaways were. So lots of love, Alana G.